All right, it is 7:01. I'll call the Monday, February 24th, 2025 Select Board meeting to order. Are there any amendments to the agenda for tonight? No, all right, then, let's see, let's go on to the minutes of the previous meeting, actually 2 meetings ago. Minutes of January 27th, 2025.
27,
I'm sorry, 25.
25.
January 27th, 2025.
Okay.
Did I say
sorry.
that screwy?
I'll move those.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right. I've got quite a few changes on these minutes. So do we just
Walk me through them.
walk you
or
through them, or do you want to?
Postpone presenting or postpone, come to me with them.
It's whatever's easier. I don't. So, I mean, the changes were Richard Powell was mentioned in the fish ladder thing. It was not, it was Bob Barkalow. So that has to be changed in a number of places.
Okay.
And then the motion, we made a motion by Rufus and then seconded by Ben to allow you to sign the 2 interlocal agreements. And then we voted on that, and that was 5-0. And then after that, there was a motion by Tor and then Ben to appoint Jim and me to the fish ladder committee, and that was voted on, and that was 5-0. And they weren't separated out, so we didn't make a vote. And
New
then,
business, D,
which one was that?
under new business, D, the Noblesboro Transfer Station,
Yep,
the,
yep.
it was a 3-2 vote, not a 5 vote.
Okay,
The vote was 3-2, and then the adjournment was by me, not you. For the meeting.
was not
Yep.
like.
Yep.
Okay,
So so I don't know. Do you want to
yeah, hold off.
hold off? Okay.
Yeah. We'll
Okay.
bring those back along with the next meeting.
Okay, that sounds good.
Take a harder look at those.
All right, let's see, and then the 10th, not ready. Do you have any public comments on items not on the agenda tonight? I'm looking at you, Mal or Mike. Nope. Okay. Okay. You're reserving the ability to do this for later in the meeting. All right. Good evening.
Good evening. How are you?
Let's see, so we'll move on to item 5, presentations and special guests. Talking about the fiscal year 26 budget. So Kevin
So I'm not a special guest, but I do have a presentation about this.
and special guests.
And special guests. And Michelle's here too. Michelle's been helping me this year a lot with the budget. So
Excellent.
big thank you to her. And I'm going to continue to involve her and get her more up to speed on someday just running these presentations. So or assisting me on these presentations. I'm going to share my screen so that it's up on there and others can follow along at home or their free time at home on YouTube. Except I don't remember how to do that. Needed to take a few more bites of that burrito before I started working. There it is.
Hey, Kevin, do you think we could rotate that about 10 degrees?
Sure.
Yeah, we don't have paperwork.
I'm gonna come over here with you guys. It's great for me.
Nope. You have the privilege to see, guys.
Want to join John and just slide over? Oh, she's seen
I
these
wanna crowd
slides.
No problem.
Okay, some of this is similar to last year. I do think it's important to recap some of these topics just because it's helpful to get the bigger picture about municipal budgeting and the functions of government as how I see it. So municipal budget, all the expenses and revenues the town of Newcastle needs to provide quality service for its citizens for a full fiscal year. The fiscal year is July 1st to June 30th. And the year is represented by the last day of that fiscal year. So when we talk about FY26, we're talking about the one that we'll be planning for July 1st this year of 2025. That'll go to June 30th, 2026. Kind of challenging because I know staff in the office work on about 4 different fiscal years or 4 different calendar years in a fiscal year. So it's never certain what year we're in, but I'd like to recap that. Property tax rate, the property tax calculates, the town calculates taxes by dividing the net of expenditures minus non-property tax revenues by the total assessed value of the town. So that's how we determine the property tax rate. And what is the mill rate? That's the property tax rate per thousand of property value. So all that's kind of confusing, but if you look at our current fiscal year, we're in fiscal year 2025. This will end in June 30th of this year. The mill rate is $13.60. And the median home assessed for all residential properties in Newcastle was $377,700. So that median home is paying $5,000 a year for their taxes, which is about $430 a month. Functions of government. So this is a broad interpretation. Government has 3 functions. This is sort of my interpretation. Education is the key to the future strength of a community, state, and nation. Public health and life safety, police, fire, code enforcement is part of that. They provide a sense of security for a community to feel safe, trust that they are supported by something bigger. And public infrastructure, that's our roads, bridges, in some communities, it'd be your water department, your sewer department, your parks. Those are all what I would consider infrastructure. It allows us to get from point A to point B and enjoy the in-between. So these functions as a percent of the FY 25 fiscal year approved budget. As a percentage of education, it's almost half. Education covers about half of it. Our infrastructure side covers about 30%, and our public safety is about 10%. And so with these three functions, that's 87% of our total annual budget. And they're supported by administration, which is our elected officials. Where's your gavel, Aaron? Oh, man, we got to work on that. Town clerk, assessing, finance, human resources or product manager, IT, planning and development. Call it. But those are made up, represent 12%. Wow, those numbers don't exactly match. I gotta fix that one, but
It's close.
I know that this one is correct.
It's close.
It's about 88%. 88 and 12. How do we pay for all this? Maine, it's with property taxes primarily. Assessed value for FY 25 in Newcastle was just over $467 million. And that's a big increase from the prior year. A lot of that's tied to the reval we did last year. Total annual budget for the town, that includes all, not just municipal, but the school and the county, $7.7 million. And about 6.4 of that was paid for with property taxes. So if I simplify the math, I don't know why that's highlighted. I think it was because I had a note to somebody. Simplified math, 6.4 million divided by the 467, you get about 13.7, which is close to what our current mill rate is. So I'm just going to use that 13.7 through these examples, for about $430 a month. So different scenarios, if the budget were flat, in theory, the mill rate would be the same.
Hey, Kevin,
Yeah,
the discrepancy there is that attributed to the overlay. Is that what we're looking at?
I just rounded the 13.7 versus the 13.6.
Yeah,
It's because I
you
rounded.
rounded it.
I rounded both of those numbers. That 467 million is actually 380
Yeah.
million.
Got it.
And the simplified math, the 6.4 is actually a little lower than that.
Okay.
So it's just a rounding. I was just trying to simplify the rounding. So this is my constant. And if all properties, so I'm holding the budget flat, this would be in theory, the mill rate would be the same. So I'm going to use this as a constant over the course of the next couple of scenarios. So if I were to say that if we were to change the assessed value, if we did it like when we did the reval, all properties are increased by 10% to better align with the market value. Every property, not categories of properties. One category going up, one up a little more, one might go down a little bit, but everybody changing a little bit. This is across the board. If you're just to try to catch up a little bit on the 10%, although it just compounds the issue, that would increase the assessed value to 513, lowering the mill rate, but you'd have essentially the same monthly bill. It wouldn't change that at all if you kept the budget flat.
Because we're just raising the same amount of money.
You're raising the same exact amount of money, you're just dividing it differently. Now costs rise and taxes rise. Assume a 4% increase on the budget and no change to the assessed value. Going back to my constant, is that 1370. Now, if I were to increase the budget from 6.4 to 6.6, that mill rate goes up. And if the values haven't changed, now the assessed value has no change, it's still the median home is still 380. Now you're paying about $200 more a year. So if our budget goes up, but the value of our community doesn't have an added value, and I talk about no change in assessed value in terms of, in this instance, I would say in terms of new construction, new projects that come online. Now, if costs rise, but building happens, what about our taxes? So let's assume a 4% increase on the budget. There's no change to the existing value, but there's a 4% increase in value for new construction projects. The mill rate stays the same, so 4%, 4%. The assessed value, the budget goes up 4%, the assessed value goes up 4%. They both stay the same of new construction. You pay the same amount. There's no change in taxes. Now in scenario 4, if the costs rise and even more building happens than costs rise, so we'll use 5% increase in the value of new construction projects. This is when you start to see a reduction in the mill rate on that same median home that otherwise this value hasn't changed. So they're paying about $50 less, even though we're providing more or additional services with the budget increase, or same services and there's just contractual costs that have gone up. We're able to cover that with that new construction. So that's the takeaway of what I've been trying to identify in these scenarios is the more we see in the development where we want to see it, in the right places in our community, the more value it brings to the community to therefore offset any increases or potential increases in a budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is implied in what you're saying, but I'd like to hear it said. If you have more construction, value of the property in the town goes up. Is there a corresponding increase in the cost to the town to provide infrastructure and other services because of that extra construction?
That's a great point, and that's where it makes sense to have smart growth. So if you have development that occurs where there's already roads or sewer or water lines or in close proximity to those, in theory, no, it does not.
Okay.
There is a threshold at which a population grows in which then we have to provide more additional services.
But it's possible to add construction
Without-
without materially increasing the cost for the town,
Correct.
which means that adding the construction either creates room for inflation related cost increases or perhaps even, dare I say it, easing in the tax burden.
Yes, that is correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, just don't ask me to take on any new roads. No more roads.
We are tied, I mean, I know with some of our contracts with ambulance service and stuff like that. We're charged based off of our assessed value, so if our assessed value does go up, then there is an increase in that budget number.
That's true.
Some things are directly tied.
That's true. And that's the same for our share of the county tax bill. That's also based in part on the revenue we get from the state for education currently. It's also based on assessed value determines how much revenue sharing we get too. So the more assessed value, some of those monies go away. There are ways to shelter that, and those are through tax increment financing in districts, either a downtown district. We can talk more about that at some point, but and that's how you can shelter and protect those from affecting your loss of revenue from elsewhere or costs that go up.
But on balance, additional taxable revenue is a net benefit.
Correct. Even if it's, even if you lose a few pennies here and
Yes.
there, let's say you get a dollar of new value, and I don't know what it would be here in Newcastle, but I can tell you when I was in Saco, for every new dollar we brought in, we lost about 45 cents to lost revenue. So we still had money come in, but it was advantageous for us to create TIF districts to shelter that full 45 cents we otherwise would have lost. So I don't know what it is here. I haven't explored it. It's one of those things like when we get to it, we can look into whether or not that makes sense for this town.
One other example is if you have $1 million home that gets built, $1 million property, let's say that. The tax revenue for that property is now $13,600,000 a year, right?
Correct. 13,600, or in this scenario would be 13,700.
So you have to, that's a lot of revenue for one, say, property.
Mhm.
But the expenses to increase by 13,600,000 $13,600 is a lot of stuff that you're doing. So like, for example, the ambulance scenario that Tom mentioned, I think. You know, we pay an incremental adjusted rate based on our valuation, which is $460 million. We only increased that by $1 million. The increase to that $90,000 is very minute compared to the 13.6 that we get for revenue. So, yeah, it far exceeds the expense ratio.
Yeah, I mean, you think about it, 467 million, 1% of that is, you know.
6 million.
4,600,000, $670,000. So, you know, you gotta have 4 of those $1 million homes, or you gotta have a larger project, you know, maybe a 4 duplex or quad. For example, the Mills Road project will be in this additional assessed value. Now, we're gonna have to have some conversation at some point about, you know, how do we tax something that we're trying to create affordable housing for? Not a conversation for tonight. I want to eventually get to our budget. Otherwise, we can do this all night long. So the theory here is, and the whole point of this is, municipal government is in the real estate business. If we want to see a way to reduce municipal costs, because we want good municipal services, right? So, and we have to pay for it. But we want to try to mitigate the cost of those increases on a given year. We basically are trying to find partners to develop parts of the town we want to see developed. And so in a state where property taxes are heavily relied on, remember I mentioned our full budget is about 7.7 and 6.4 of it is covered with municipal. I'm sorry, with property taxes. So it's a significant portion of it. Then I believe we are in the business of real estate. Whether I like it or not, or whether we like it or not, it's what it is. So of course, it's always prudent to be aware of our expenditures, and we'll go through those over the course of the workshops and review the numbers and talk about where we are and why. But it's just, you always have to have this mindset, like fixing this as a multi-prong approach, or addressing this as. So what can we do to, you know, it's these things, support Newcastle. Tell your friends, once there's no longer housing crunch, move here, or
Move here anyway.
move here, start a business here. Become a part of this community, get involved. I have appreciated the number of people that have stepped up this past year that I've been doing this now, that have gotten involved, are getting my emails and asking questions and sending. So I appreciate the growth of just grassroots involvement that's starting to happen. I hope it continues. All right, so budget meeting schedule. There's 3 workshops with the select board and 1 select board meeting in March. And then there's 2 additional select board meetings in April to try to get through all of this as transparently as we can. I have in these red boxes the 5th, the 12th, and the 19th of March. Today is the 24th, blue dot up there. So next Wednesday, we'll have our first workshop, and we'll continue those workshops for the 12th and the 19th. I'm going to save you guys the 10th to have us. You'll have a select board meeting on the 10th, but I'll save you budget related issues unless we have to, unless we absolutely have to. And then what we'll do is on the 24th, during your meeting, we'll have an item to address any proposed changes you see or want to make during the workshop cycles, or an email to me. Then in the April, we'll have, you know, an opportunity for some public input on the budget, just an open house kind of conversation. And then on the 28th, we'll set the budget and approve the warrant articles for our June meeting. That 28th will also be the date if you do want to move forward with the proposal to have a ballot item or a ballot article. That'll be the date we have to set that to. Am I correct? April 28th, or is that too late?
It should be earlier than that.
Okay, I stand corrected. Glad she's here tonight, even though I know she's tired. You think it needs to be
We
done?
have to have absentee ballots, that's really the holdup.
Oh, right.
We have to have them a month ahead. So we're supposed to be ordering them the beginning of April, but we do push it off some, so we could do that first meeting.
Well, no,
I
we can
mean-
just have it on the 24th of March.
Yes, well, yeah.
That's fine. I'm sorry, I'll take that back.
Okay.
So we have to have the 24th, we have to have the warrant, no, the ballot question proposed, and then the warrants will be done on the end of April.
Right.
For the town meeting.
Okay.
So we get the annual town report printed along with those
Mhm.
articles.
It's
All
just the ballot stuff we have to get determined so that we can. vote
Earlier
them. Yep.
than, yep.
Okay.
Yep, which, you know, if we do this every year, we'll have to just move the budgeting process earlier so that it can get done in time to print the ballots.
And just start it in the summer for the next
Great.
year.
I'll have 1 month of data to tell you what's going on.
No problem.
All right, and then I'll touch on the, sort of my thoughts about what we'll try to achieve during those workshops. I'll start with general government and planning and development. I've moved some things out of general government that are technically now that we have more of a planning department, planning and development staff. I'm moving some of the budget items that were generally in general budget there. So you'll see some weird like ups and downs in this, so I want to be able to present them the two of those together. Then the 19th, we'll look at our community public services, public safety, the transfer of reserves, excluding the capital roads. We'll do that one with our road commissioner in-house on the 20th. And obviously debt service is pretty basic, so I just kind of tucked it there. Yeah. So those are the underlined sections are 6 categories. Although there is a 7th one I'm adding this year, which is harbor master, but I'll address that as part of the workshop on general government. We have the account lines, we've just not been using them, and that sort of just falls off the radar, and I'd rather track it than properly track it.
I think you've got a date wrong there. 319,
You're right, I do.
this is 312.
Yeah, and the other one's 319.
Yeah.
No, I can fix that right now.
I was like, wait, that.
Yeah, we're not meeting 2 nights in a row.
Yeah, I didn't think so.
Nope. Okay, back to where we were. Did I? Oh, I do have them right here. Yep, okay, good. So I'll recap some of the budget summary, not all of this, just the important things towards the end. General government, planning and development, questions that are asked during the meeting will be developed into a memo and be shared at the next meeting. It'll give us time to research what you're interested in, or adding the list of modifications you want to make, so on and so forth. We did this last year, it worked pretty well, providing you that information and making sure it was available. So then on the 12th, we'll review those, touch on those other areas, same thing. And on the 19th, we'll review from the week before and touch on those things. And on the 24th, before the change of things, I'll make sure you get a copy of the answer or questions and answers from that meeting. Similar to last year, hard copy will be given to you. I had hoped to have it for you tonight. This weekend did not work out for me, so it will be done this week, and I will make sure you have copies before the workshop so you have a chance to start perusing through it. I found it helpful in terms of note taking and just flipping back and forth, and whoever brought a binder tonight will reuse those. Now we will pick up new ones. This again has 7 sections, and I'm going to jump into, I switched these two. They were revenues first and then expenditures, but I find that we're really focused on the expenditures. We make decisions on the expenditures. The revenues are kind of what they are. There are certain ones that we have no control over, but or are estimated by the state. But the other ones I do want to at least review with you and get your support for and approval on. These have the headers again, where the FY23, and you can see that the asterisks there. We still don't have a audit for 23 now. For 24, we are just in the first stages of getting that done.
I sent a lot of things over.
Everything's been sent to them. We're just waiting for the steps. So we're about 1.5 years behind, or now 2 years behind where we should be.
But not because we did. anything.
Nothing that we did.
Right.
I think that there's a extreme shortage of CPAs in the region. Last year we explored other options. Thanks, John, for doing some of that research. And it's pretty limited what's out there. All right, so FY 23, FY 24 actuals are in here, the 2020 FY 25 budget. And this column represents what was approved at annual town meeting. But it also includes any carry forwards. So things that additions we made at the very beginning of this current fiscal year, where we said we're gonna move some things from last year into this year. It includes those numbers. It includes use of our reserves, I meant fund balance, use of our fund balance, and then any budget amendments, the budget amendment that was made at the special town meeting. So those numbers are a little inflated there. The summaries I'm gonna share a couple of different summaries that show with and without. But the overall line by line shows that. You had a question, John?
No,
Okay, that's my hand.
no, sorry, I'll sit on my hands.
Luckily, it's not auctioning something.
So then I also provided a year-to-date column, which is about, what do we figure percentage-wise, 60 now, 60% of the budget. So you get a sense of where we are throughout the year. And that's as of January, Valentine's Day. And then this is the manager's budget. This has proposed expenditures and and then of course, the differences between the dollar difference between the manager and the manager at 26 and the budget 25 is in black if it's in the increase, and if it's a decrease, it's in red.
Shouldn't it be reversed?
Well, it'd be a lot more red. If it was an increase. Yes, an expenditure usually, sure. Yeah,
Think of the ink savings, Pat.
yeah,
Okay, I'm sorry.
And we want the red ones to jump out at us.
yeah, you want to see those. You want to see more of those reds, right?
No, they jump out if it's a bad number, it's red.
Yeah.
What? Okay.
Well, here's an example. This is
But that's a
Oh, no,
good
it's a
number.
good number.
That's what I'm saying.
It's a good number, you're right.
no, it just shows you there's a reduction there.
It decreased.
And
It's okay, Kevin.
last year was this way.
Yeah.
It's
okay.
fine. I don't care.
Make it green.
You. Totally fine.
I haven't eaten enough for ribbing. So our postage is down this year, but our MMA dues are up $9. And so that's just a quick snapshot of what this helps you visually see. And then you can see each category has, in this case, it would be 25 operations, has a sum, and then the whole division or whole department, I should say, or sorry, category. The numbers, okay, so the numbers on the left, that's how we code our software, and I want this just displayed. It actually helped me a lot this year with our book, because I can refer to that quickly and say which account we need to pull this from. General government is coded as 101. Your the division of general government, I guess they're called a handful of things. I'll call it a division. Cemetery maintenance, and then a specific line item is contract mowing. And so that's 7002. So this in our financial system, this is account 101 7002, and you see it in your warrants. That's how we track all this. But there's a new feature, new accounts, exciting little asterisks in bold and italicized, so it jumps out at you. So we're just trying to clean up some of the accounts. So this is an example of where we had a separate division for code enforcement officer, and it was code enforcement officer compensation, but the code enforcement officer should be compensation as part of planning and development. So this is, you'll see like this one is a zeroed out in one line, and then there's a new budget line on there. So you'll see some of that, but I want to just asterisk or some way to showcase like, look, this is a new account. We're just trying to clean things up. Reserves and grants. We have 12 reserve accounts, and I really want to showcase what we have in them and what we spent money in and what we plan to do with any resources that are there this year and into currently through the rest of this year and into FY 26. So we kind of have an ongoing conversation about what's going on with these, because otherwise, who knows? So we'll have summaries, yeah. and then we have 6 active grants, so I want to showcase those too. For special projects. So we have the Ask Grant, which we just finished, but it's still not closed out. The Mayday Storm, still not closed out. The ARPA funds, which we just received, big check for it and recent meeting, and we gotta start spending that down. So there's I'll mention as part of my manager report that the RFP will be going out soon for a site plan work to be done. Solar system, now this isn't necessarily a grant, it's a special project at this time. So this is the elective pay, this is the 30%. There's a full process you have to follow to get those monies back, so we're tracking this way. Currently taking a boot camp on that whole process for municipalities. The goal is to have it installed and in service by June 30th. Our contract says that, because if we do, then I can get the funding, I can apply for the funding before the deadline of November 15th. So as a, just based on your fiscal year, so if it doesn't get done by June 30th, I have to wait another year before we can get the resources, so. And who knows if laws will change to affect that, so. And then we do have I don't know if I've shared this one with you, state and local cybersecurity, we got a grant for about $6,000 worth of staff and volunteers training who use computers, so you might get a link for some little bit of know before me training or know before training, and we're getting multi-factor authentication, little YubiKeys. Yes, we are getting YubiKeys.
Yeah.
So it's about $6,000 worth of just help us become better with our cybersecurity. And talking with our IT consultants, that's great. So nothing that we have to deal with in terms of tracking, but it is something I'll have to be occasionally sending reports to the state for. And then our VPI grant, which we hope to be wrapping up within the next month. Others not included and it's not included here because it's being managed by Damerscota, but it's our joint DECD grant. This is for additional affordable housing site plan work, $125,000. We just got the contract this morning and from a year ago. So they're struggling with staffing too, imagine that. And then other grants we've applied for was assistance for firefighters. That was back in December, along with the community action grant. The assistance for firefighters was for SCBA gear, packs and tanks, about 150,000, and then batteries and communication for resilience, about 75,000. And then other grants we're actively pursuing. Ask grant for another 25 or 5,000 because we're looking to. We found a consultant to work with. He's not charging us a lot, and he's got probably close to 1 million years of experience in public works. His name's Paul Brown. He works for Maine Local Roads as a consultant now. He's retired. He's the Maine Roads Ranger. So he comes to your town on behalf of the state and helps you look at roads, or if I needed a ranger and but Seth was gracious enough to give time to me and Kara to review our roads. Otherwise, I would have called Paul to come in anyway. So he's offered to assist us in this. So I think this grant is enough to cover his time working for both communities and exploring either one public works for each town or jointly, or look at a bunch of different models. So hopefully we can get that covered by another Ask grant. Our Mayday Storm is ongoing, the large project portion. We're closed out on all of the actual storm damage, but now we're still waiting for.
We still haven't done historic preservation.
No, it's trapped in environmental and historic preservation, and I don't think it's going to get any easier right now. So I'm going to continue to monitor and contact my representative until that person's not there anymore. But yeah, I'm just waiting on that one. And then another one I'm pursuing is a hazard mitigation grant and I'm looking at 2 possibilities, and I want to get, while you're here, get this quickly. The low point on East Old County Road, when you come down over the hill. Looking to get a planning grant, hazard mitigation planning grant through the state to explore raising that up. I've been told there's some interesting things under there, but it'd be nice to actually find out, and that there's resources available to it. The other thing I thought of considering, we got the neck bridge and we're still going through the process of getting that off the sign off of there with the state. But if that bridge continues to have issues, and because it is our responsibility, because it's low use, we should at least consider what it would take to reconnect South and North Dyer Neck Road. And this planning grant can at least offer that. So I was thinking of proposing 2 planning grants to at least have on paper what it would take today. So that's what I'm chasing down before the middle of March. Right. Capital improvement and asset inventory. This has been enhanced too. As you know, we did the asset inventory. Seth and I spent some time at the end of January reviewing those, making recommendations, and sort of having a year by year recommendation of what we should be working on and costs associated with those. We've done that with the fire equipment, the trucks we have, and other assets around. We also talked about facility maintenance. Thank you to Thomas and Lucas for walking around this building with me to get a gist of what needs to get done either this spring and or into next year. We do need to clean out the basement, because if we do get the battery grant, we will need space down there and we make it available to fit this in. I've been made aware that the venting for our heat pumps here are backwards, so that has to get fixed soon. So I'll be working on that. But just starting to put more time and attention towards the capital improvement needs and the facility needs we have here, including the chimney on the roof.
Thank you.
Yeah, I know.
Don't park
I got
underneath
you.
that chimney, Michelle. That's on the Taniscott building. I don't want to see your car smashed.
Then school and county budgets, this section will have the county budget and Newcastle's financial share. This is one of those that's affected by increased value in our community. We end up with a greater share of the county budget when we do, but it's okay. I think we get a lot of value from our relationship with the county. And then regional school unit number 48, RSU number 48. That's the new entity. That's the new entity that you had 2 different budget lines, GSB and secondary education. Now it's just one account line on one budget.
Is there any indication from the old / new superintendent that because of the new arrangement, we may be able to get numbers sooner than July?
Yeah, I hope we'll have numbers sooner than July. I believe they're gonna meet in March.
It's starting.
They're starting it in March, so probably not. I will work with our superintendent to get at least a preliminary number in here, so you have a better idea of what the overall summary is. I mean, I took the sum of the last 2 last year and I applied 4% to it. And that's what I'm at least benchmarking for today, or for this consideration for discussion. And then we'll see where they come in at. I know that they've been able to reduce some costs by reducing administration, by breaking away from the AOS. But that means there's fewer people to get the work done in a timely fashion. But we'll see.
Yeah.
And then community and public's requests. So this is essentially just the letters we received from the agencies and an overview of what those are and the amounts they are. And those will be available in this folder here for everybody to review ahead of time, or obviously they'll be in your binders too. All right, then going back to manager's memo, this will have the manager's member and some other documents. I scribbled that out because I'm not giving you my manager's memo tonight. It'll be in your budget binder. But other documents, so there's 8 sections instead of 7. There's 8 now. They're Harbor. I wanted to get that created and understood that, you know, it does have an expense and it will next year because both our harbor master and our deputy harbor master have to take their certification training. That happens every 3 years. So there's about, I estimated about $2,500 for them to go to the 2-day training and stay the night up there. So
I think it reminds us that we're a waterfront community too.
that's right.
Mhm.
3 ways to look at the summary documents, and this is what I struggled with because, you know, it's like every way you look at it, it's statistics, it's an art, not a science. So I wanted to show first, this is the adopted budget compared to my proposed budget. It includes both the fund balance and the reserve account transfers. So when you look at it, it looks like I'm reducing the budget by 1.5%. Well, you know, when I talk about use of reserves, I always refer to things that we're only doing one time. We're not doing this over and over and over and over again. So this is not a fair representation of what's happening from one budget year to the next and what are the changes. So my next review is the adopted budget without the use of fund balance. And here you see a 4.99%. And I will absolutely go into my argument or reasons why I'm asking for, again, that 3.5 million and why it shows a 5% increase. And I'm not going to do that tonight, but I will do that as part of our workshops and then presentation again at the end of this. And then the modified budget, this does not include the use of fund balance, but it does include the carry forwards and then the changes made at the special town meeting. So you can see how much the public works has increased from the 812 up to 976. But this also includes some carry forward, and carry forward was used to take care of the Neck Bridge this year. So I was able to back that out, think about a placeholder because I still don't have all my numbers here. I'm still waiting on finalizing those. But you can see transfers are down. So of course I'm requesting another bump in those to cover that.
Wait, transfers.
Transfer totals, that's for the transfers to reserves.
Okay.
Those are your capital roads, your fire truck reserve, your
Right.
building maintenance, all those things. Sorry, usually it says transfer to reserves, but I'll fix that. So then this shows, you know, when you consider those carry forwards and changes, it's a 3.29. So the percentage is not always helpful, but understanding sort of the nuances between when you carry forward money, when you make changes to the budget during the course of the year, and then anytime you use your fund balance or plan to use your fund balance, I try to make it very clear when and where I do it. So like last year, I used 50,000 in our contingency. This year, I did not. So when you go back here, it looks like I've cut the general government budget, but really I've taken out half of that from an increased 25,000. So yeah. So lots of questions, I'm sure, when we get through it, and I'll walk you through it. But this presentation, all the sections, they're going to be on the same place they were last year, just under a different tab called fiscal year 2026 budget. And the links here, I'll make this available to all of you, including the public, and send it out through the group emails too. So that's what I wanted to get through tonight. So thank you.
Nice job, Kevin.
Very nice.
Okay, so then moving on to item 6A, the item commentary says, I think that I must have forgotten to put a date in there when we had the motion last time.
No, I didn't have it I didn't even have it in the proposed motion. So that's my bad.
We
Partially.
we both batted.
Okay.
Yeah, we both forgot. So and this one's pretty easy then. Do I have a motion to hold? Oh, wait a minute, no, we didn't have anything to vote on. We did have a motion earlier on something though.
Well, we were looking at approving the minutes, but we decided.
Oh,
to
right,
Yeah, we
that's
table
right.
those.
That was it. We tabled it. All right, then do I have a motion to hold a public hearing on March tenth regarding the proposed changes to the recall of elected officials ordinance as presented on January 27th?
So moved.
Moved by Rufus, seconded
Second,
by, well,
whatever.
Ben, so to Ben. Did anyone have anything else they wanted to talk about that? All right, then all in favor? Yep, passes 5-0. It's easy enough. So then moving on to the next one, which is the Village Partnership Initiative. You sent along the letter,
I did.
but we still don't have anything from the main DOT.
No, I need to meet with DOT and when this came out at the 11th hour on Thursday, the decision was made that we need to meet back with Wright Pierce before we review all that information and bring it back to you. So we need another couple of weeks.
Let's just put that off until we have all the information.
Yeah, I thought it was important to give you Emily's
Mhm.
sort of recap of, what are our next steps when you're ready to
It's a good letter.
approve it, what can be done. I will say that my conversation with Ian from the DOT was, they're really nervous about funding. And so even if we approve this, it might be years before we have something lined up, but we'll continue to move it through the process now. I don't think it makes sense to ask the town to, put some sum away or plan to bond for anything until we know what that funding structure will be. And it'll just be a commitment from the select board at this stage that yes, when the time comes, we'll take it to town meeting, get the bond if we want to move forward with any aspect of this. So, yeah, I think it's okay. At this point, it's okay to just work through this, but I can't in good conscience give you the garbly-goo that I got, so,
The garbly.
yeah.
That's a technical term.
It was a technical document, and I'm like, this isn't helpful to,
Okay.
Well, I appreciate, we talk a little bit about this, because
I want to your
Yeah.
feedback
I
too.
wanna, a few things I wanted to mention. One is I appreciate the seeing the survey comments and that data. I thought that was insightful. It's funny that I thought the pie charts were interestingly a little bit more in favor of things, or they told a different story than what the comments did. So I didn't know exactly how
I
to.
can provide a little insight into what happened there.
Yeah.
Publicly, our attempt was to try to get like a 2-week period right after the meeting, right after the last public meeting, to encourage people to watch the meeting and then provide some feedback if they couldn't make it that night, to try to increase the number of people. We had about 34 responses at that point. Then I heard from some members of the community that said, wait, I didn't even know about this thing happening. I want to be able to provide some comments. And so I opened it back up.
Yeah.
And I didn't close it again until after the first of the year. And I got another 10. And those 10 gave a very different picture of what that looked like from the first 34.
Yeah.
And in part, I don't think they watched.
Mhm.
I'm speculating here. I'm not sure that they watched the video that gave the context to what they were trying to achieve. And so there was a bit of a different viewpoint or tone that came from that last tab. And I don't know if they provided comments and everything, just clicked on the pie chart once.
Yeah, and I wanted to hear what the comments were in that last presentation, last meeting, and it was all very good. I mean, it was well attended, I thought, for what it was, and all the comments were helpful, I think, to the engineers and to the board. I think one of the things I think we can't lose sight of is the bigger picture, because yes, this is a grant funded through, or half of it through, the Department of Transportation. So surprise, we're gonna be talking about roads, right? But if we go back to where this all started, and I'm going back a long shot back to 2013 or so. This all started with not necessarily the VPI, but this concept that we had to somehow figure out a way to increase our tax base in this town. And I thought it was appropriate, your presentation tonight, Kevin, which was, you know, about how do you bring down the tax burden on residents, and it's by increasing tax revenue in some sort of way, as thinking in a developer's kind of mind, or a real estate type of, you know, mindset. And so the whole, well, half of this concept of village partnership initiative is the fact that this does have to support a village atmosphere. And in that village atmosphere, we get the most highest value and best use of that real estate. And so the complement to increasing density and that kind of, that kind of development is to have slow vehicle, rates of travel, pedestrian, safe pedestrian access.
Parking.
Parking. So there was many comments throughout the survey, which was, how is this gonna, what does this actually do? Like, what's all the parking about? Well, we gotta look forward, 10, 20 years and try to imagine that there would be more dense development, more best, more use and best use and high value use of this property. And, I was thinking of the standard as an example. I mean, there we have 6 units, 7 units on a very small parcel of land, very high value, very dense use. That's just one example. We have 2 new units coming in on Mills Road. Again, high density, good infill. That's the stuff I think we've got to keep in mind as we go through this process. This isn't just about, where the lines should be painted on the road and, where the crosswalks are and, whether this is a rotary or a T-stop or whatever it is. It's what supports big picture, which is a village atmosphere with safe pedestrian access, reasonable car flow, rely on the engineers for their knowledge and their expertise to walk us through that. But it is, it's a comprehensive view. And if we get lost in this one conversation about how do we get the vehicles through town, we're missing the whole picture.
I'd like to just dovetail on what you said, because I think that as important as everything you just said about the looking forward journey that we started now years and years ago, it's equally important, I think, to look to examples in the past and see what the changes that have happened, not just in our town, but our neighboring towns, have wrought. And with an understanding that nothing is ever perfect. There is no silver bullet. And that, as we were fond of saying in the NLPC, the enemy of the good is the perfect, the quest for perfection. And so, but I spent the last couple of weeks actually thinking about some of our history, and I think that's just as important to not just remind ourselves, but remind everybody, like when there are these small incremental changes, what the impact is, and what we thought the impact would be versus what the impact actually was. There's a lot of examples we can point to, and I think that needs to be part of the conversation. Without getting into any specifics, we'll get into them when we start reviewing. I have plenty.
Well, good.
And I just want to touch on Emily's email or the letter she provided, and this got lost at our last meeting we had on this. Really, this is about better organizing and calming traffic flow, or this was the attempt of what this is. Supporting a pedestrian-friendly village district and adding on-street parking to encourage commercial and residential development in the study area. And, that was the conversation I had with DOT was, this is about these efforts, not necessarily about where kind of conversation went, where it's about well, how do we move traffic faster? I mean, any of the designs, yes, it was a little seconds slower to get through town, seconds slower, as the analysis shows. So I just can't want to keep referring back to these 3 bullet points, was the whole point of creating this VPI was to address these issues, and it does address both the how do we think about our community going forward, and how do we think about what our community has been in the past. So,
I think it's important that, you know, hearing all the comments and the concerns, we don't lose sight of the whole thing, you know, maybe not everything changes, but maybe we, like you were saying, get some, like, let's get some off-street parking, even if the intersection stays the same. You know, that sort of like, how do we make a plan that 95% of the voting people can get behind so that we can get on their list, you know, I mean, and I was just trying to find the wording, but, you know, they say that if there's significant displeasure with the plan, they're less likely to fund it. Makes sense. So I think that, you know, in future meetings, we really need to come to a consensus on, okay, what are people happy to see change? And what is concerning, and can we address those concerns? And if not, how do we move forward with something rather than, you know, nothing? Like you said, if it's not going to be perfect, but we can certainly make it better. That's, I think, important to focus on that. You know, even if we don't get to change everything the way we would like it to change, if we can make some changes, would be better than no changes.
Anyone else have anything to say? Add? All right, then we'll probably put that on the agenda then as soon as we hear back from DOT.
Yeah, as soon as I get a more formal letter from them, I'll bring it forward.
Okay. And we've got some interest in an Adopt a Highway program.
We do, and I hadn't, you know, I knew about this in New York, but I hadn't seen much about it in Maine, and then I did my homework and found out that this was created in 1999, and there's only about a dozen towns in the state that have actually participated or created this. I mean, some have done it without forming the state, and some have done it before the state had programs and have just matured on their own, or just their conservation commissions create these opportunities.
Town cleanup day.
Yeah, and but I have also learned that there's no actual liability of the state, like the town can't be sued if somebody gets hurt. We still want them to sign waivers, but it's still there's some protections for municipalities if they want to participate in this. So I feel comfortable. I know it adds, 2 more days of work in the year, but I think it's worth it given the desire, there's interest,
Well, this was brought to you by a resident.
not a resident of Maine, but he attends the church here in Newcastle, or he's a resident of Maine,
Not Newcastle.
not Newcastle. He attends a church in Newcastle. But there are many other organizations he's talked to which have residency and employees that are interested in doing this, that live in our communities. So he's exploring this with both us and Damascotta, at least 4 entities that are interested in participating. And he knows there's others that just haven't committed yet. So if we create a program, I know if we build it, they will come. So.
I wasn't sure if he was gonna be here tonight, but I was gonna suggest that he reach out to Lincoln Academy because I know that the seniors have a requirement
I
to
just
complete
thought.
some community service.
Right.
To receive their diploma. It's right up that alley.
Awesome. I will let Merrick know.
Does anybody have any questions, concerns?
I'd like to move to support development of an Adopt a Highway program for Newcastle.
I'll second.
Anybody else? Nope, then all in favor? Let's See if we can get some. I'm trying to think what roads do we have the trash? I know, Tori, you get a trashy road.
I try to do my part on Sneed Search.
So do I, Nate,
For-
so do I.
And so does Kevin.
That's
and-
Kevin, yeah.
Why is Sneed Spur so dirty? It's
Uh,
just people throw their trash all
Because
over.
there are no houses.
Yeah.
What?
There's nobody watch, like, nobody can really see it except for Tor.
Well, there's that, and I always think this, like, what's the mindset here? And I think it's also, you're getting onto Route 1. And I think it's just.
Unload the trash before you go?
Well, a lot of it is alcohol.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, a lot of it. It's get rid of that before we get on the.
On the highway,
Yeah.
yeah.
Right, we know there's gonna be a cop parked at Mike's Place.
Right. Gotta throw it before we get there. Huh. Well, that's not.
Well, if you're out walking and you see some trash, and you say, you know what, this road is a good candidate for adopt a highway,
Yeah.
let me know.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, Route 1 probably gets the most trash on it, but I don't know. That's. Well. Oh, sorry. See if I can get this done. I have a daughter in Chile who's trying to call me right now.
Mhm.
I know, put her on Zoom. She's
Okay.
horseback riding and camping for 6 days.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
sorry, I can't talk. So then that's would seem like the most dangerous place to try to clean up trash, but they do.
No, except that there is a wide shoulder and you go, try and do it on River Road and there's no shoulder, so
Yeah.
it's a. And people are traveling just as fast on River Road as they are on. Route 1.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We used to pick up trash for sponsorships on Route 1
Great Salt Bay.
in grade school as
Yeah.
a way to fund, various class activities
What is it, by the pound,
by the bag.
by the bag?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's fun.
I go to you and say, will you give me X number of dollars
Oh.
per bag? And
Cool.
you get 10 people and you make some money.
That's kind of fun. All right, the last thing was, sorry, I've turned all my sounds off.
Do you want to take it?
Go take it.
Take it.
I just.
You have a vice chair right here. ahead.
I just hung up on her.
Well, if she's called you twice, it might be important.
Oh, that could be too. All right.
I'll take them. So,
Yeah, the last thing's pretty easy. All right, I'll see if I can snag her real quick until we'll talk.
so our next item is personnel policy. Kevin, do you want to explain this?
Sure, our personnel policy, I had a request from an employee who kind of needs this cash out now, has the hours. But I reviewed our policy and it basically says it can only be done at the end of a fiscal year. So I'm asking for permission to deviate from the policy. And I think that's the appropriate way to address this. That's all.
Is there a reason why the policy says at the end of the year?
Nope.
Only at the end of the year?
Nope. However, it was written when it was before I had a hand on it, but it is something I would look to change. But there's a process in changing the personnel policy, and this is more of one of those. I want to address this now, and then I'll come back to you with, I have about 6 or 7 things within the personnel policy that I'd like to get updated. So, but the way it's written, I have to give staff a month to see the potential changes before I can bring it to you.
Yeah.
So, under policy theory, at the end of the year, you'd say, hey, I got all this EPL.
Yeah.
Just give me a check for this.
Yep.
And-
Give me a check for a week of
Yeah.
the 4 weeks I have because
Right.
I didn't get to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what I'm asking for is just do this one.
Which, hey, you gotta remember to do that.
Right.
As a personnel staff person, say, oh, I gotta remember, in the fiscal year, request that, and then. Do I need that money?
Mhm.
Is the other part B of that, so
Right.
I think we should alleviate that rule personally.
Yeah, with some constraints, I think there should be a minimum threshold before you can request cash out
Well, there is,
to stop.
but must maintain 100 hours.
Okay.
Yeah, the threshold is there.
It's just the problem is it just says the amount they wish to cash out by June 30th. And the cash out payment will be issued the first payday in July.
Yeah.
You don't need money in July, you need money in February or March.
I'm in support of changing it, so it's. If it's a benefit, It should be available as a benefit instead of just like one day
I
a
mean-
year.
I mean, I guess the reason maybe you'd have that is in a larger community where this was probably originally pulled from.
Probably.
Administratively, it's easier to just do all 10 employees at the same time.
Right.
Versus a community where there's 4 of us full-time.
Right. Yeah.
So.
We can be more flexible.
Right, so I'll look to bring you proposals for changes in a future meeting, but for tonight, just authorize me to allow this for tonight.
I would move to authorize town manager to cash out BPL outside of their buyer timeframe.
I'll second. Any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Thank you.
One abstention or one absent.
AP warrant, it's your next one. And I do have a comment, so
Okay, why don't you go ahead?
as soon as I remember where I put it. So the version that's in your packet, it's the warrant has been decreased by $110.23. The town was wrongly charged for copy overages by Xerox. So the invoice has been voided by our Xerox representative, and so now the total AP warrant is now $362,970.86. So that's the number that I'd like you to approve, and I have the updated
I'll move that number.
362,
362,970.86.
and 86 cents.
I'll second.
It's right on the front page.
Oh, and
That's actually $90.
it's not 110.
Oh, 110. Yeah, okay. I thought you said
$110. It was decreased by 110.23.
Got it, yeah.
But Michelle's put a note here on this one. Let's see.
Wait, what was the pump repair? Pump head?
On truck. I have to look at the invoice. I know it, they had to go in, I think it was like.
And there's the new one.
Yeah. They
Okay,
get past the pump test.
But so it's maintenance.
there is another expense in here that I want to at least point to. It is the prior and up to this month for the share of the snow blower.
Mhm.
Seth and I haven't signed a contract yet. But I want to honor getting him paid.
Is that's in the Hager Enterprises fee?
Correct?
Yeah.
Just want to point that out. I don't have a contract signed yet, but good faith, because he had been doing the same for us, so
Mhm.
I saw a lot of those snow blowers in Quebec.
I'm sure you did. It is a very efficient machine. I've seen it in operation now.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Terrified.
Yeah, don't get in there.
No,
Okay,
don't trip.
All right, is there a motion to
Yes, I moved.
approve? Yeah, you moved that, did you?
Yeah.
Second that by Tom. So, any other comments, conversation? All those in favor? 4, 1 absent.
Thank you.
Okay, manager report.
Yes, I already touched on hazard mitigation grant. Our solar system install contract was signed today, so we'll be getting started on that hopefully within the next couple of weeks. I will be reaching out to say, help me come clean the basement. The other thing I wanted to just touch on was nomination papers. They are going to be out on February 27th. They're available February 27th, and they're due back by April 18th. There's 3 positions open. There's a sanitary district position, there's a school board position, and then there's a select board position. So
Oh, you're the one,
I'm the one.
you're the one.
one,
Tom, it's been 3 years?
It has.
Wow.
and I hope it's another 3.
Yes, Awesome,
We'll be in on the 27th.
cool.
That's what I have for tonight. My focus was on that budget presentation. for tonight.
So I'm just curious about the come on, brain.
You need some
Um,
data?
The sanitary district.
Hmm.
Who is exempt from being able to run for that? Could one of us be on?
Absolutely.
Okay. Just curious.
There's no conflict.
In fact, there might be alignment of goals.
Maybe.
Eventually.
Yeah,
Okay,
all right,
no
motion,
executive session, so.
yeah, motion to adjourn without objection.
Thank you.
Okay.
8:13. Wow.